Ever found yourself staring at a pile of envelopes, each representing a different bill or expense, and wished there was a way to organize them all within your budgeting app? You're using Goodbudget, which is fantastic, but you're wondering, can I group my envelopes on Goodbudget? That's exactly what we're tackling today. Hey everyone, and welcome to the channel. If you're new here, we're all about simplifying personal finance and making budgeting less of a headache. And if you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. We appreciate you. Now, let's dive into that burning question. Can you group your envelopes on Goodbudget? The short answer is, not directly, not in the way you might be picturing it. Goodbudget doesn't have a feature that lets you create folders or subcategories for your envelopes. You can't drag and drop envelopes into a utilities folder, for example. But don't worry. That doesn't mean you're stuck with a chaotic list of envelopes. There are some clever workarounds you can use to achieve a similar level of organization and control. Think of it as hacking the system a little bit, using Goodbudget's existing features in creative ways. Before we jump into the hacks, let's quickly recap what envelopes are in Goodbudget for those who are just starting out. In Goodbudget, envelopes are essentially your budget categories. They represent where your money is going. Rent, groceries, transportation, entertainment, all these get their own envelope, and you allocate a certain amount of money to each one. This helps you visualize your spending and stick to your budget. So, how can we bring some order to our envelope list if we can't create folders? Here are a few strategies. 1. The prefix/suffix method. This is probably the simplest and most effective way to group envelopes. You use a consistent prefix or suffix in your envelope names to categorize them. For example, let's say you want to group all your housing-related expenses. You could name your envelopes like this: Housing Rent, Housing Utilities, Housing Internet, or, if you prefer suffixes, Rent Housing, Utilities Housing, Internet Housing. This method instantly groups your envelopes alphabetically within Goodbudget. When you're looking at your envelope list, all your housing envelopes will be together. It's clean, it's simple, and it works. 2. The numbering system. Similar to the prefix/suffix method, you can use numbers to categorize your envelopes. For example, 1. Housing Rent, 1. Housing Utilities, 2. Transportation Gas, 2. Transportation Public Transit. This works well if you have a lot of categories. It allows you to quickly see which envelopes belong to which group. 3. The tags approach. Kind of Goodbudget doesn't have actual tags, but you can simulate them using the description field. When you edit an envelope, there's a description box. You can use this to add keywords or categories. For example, for your rent envelope, you could put housing, fixed expense in the description. While this doesn't visually group your envelopes, it allows you to search for all envelopes related to housing or fixed expenses using Goodbudget's search function. This is super helpful for reporting and analysis. 4. The master envelope method. For specific scenarios, this is a slightly more advanced technique and works best for certain types of groupings. Let's say you have several small, variable expenses related to personal care. Instead of creating individual envelopes for each, haircuts, toiletries, etc., you could create a single personal care master envelope. Then, within the description of each transaction related to personal care, you can add more detail, e.g., haircut, toothpaste. This keeps your envelope list shorter but still allows you to track spending in those subcategories through transaction details and reports. 5. The zero-based budgeting mindset. Indirect grouping. While not a direct grouping method, understanding the core principles of zero-based budgeting can indirectly help you organize your envelopes. Zero-based budgeting means every dollar has a purpose. When you approach budgeting with this mindset, you naturally categorize your expenses more effectively, making it easier to manage your envelopes, even without formal grouping features. Now, let's talk about some best practices for managing your envelopes, regardless of which grouping method you choose. Keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate your envelope system. The goal is to make budgeting easier, not harder. Choose a grouping method that you find intuitive and stick with it. Regularly review. Your budget isn't set in stone. Regularly review your spending and adjust your envelopes as needed. Maybe you realize you're consistently overspending in one category, or perhaps you need to add a new envelope for a recurring expense. Use the Notes feature. The Notes section for each envelope can be a goldmine of information. Use it to jot down reminders, track recurring payments, or add any other relevant details. Don't be afraid to experiment. Try different grouping methods until you find one that works best for you. What works for one person might not work for another. So, while Goodbudget doesn't offer direct envelope grouping, these workarounds can help you achieve a similar level of organization and make your budgeting experience much smoother. Remember, the key is to find a system that works for you and helps you stay on top of your finances. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.